Hi guys, how's it going? I always thought about my life ending would be something, well, an extraordinarily hard and difficult thing to accept. Accept to think of that everything that ever existed before me and that ever is going to exist after me, as well as in general for the timeline that I exist right now, death exists everywhere in the sense of where everything that happened before was a consequence of death that made the things today happen. And in my opinion, this is something that should not be ignored. And at the same time, can be ignored in the sense of, so what if it exists? It doesn't affect you in the sense that you cannot make decisions for you. And I would say quite the opposite, that if there's such thing as fear of death, then probably it shouldn't matter the fact that someone is afraid of death, because if death always existed and always exists and it will always exist, that's less saying that we're pretty much afraid of the environment that we live in or the air we breathe. It's just like being afraid of that when it's the most natural thing in the world if we really think about it. There's nothing, there's nothing that did not, how should I say this? Everything that exists right now happened because of death. Happened because many other people in the past do not exist right now. And so when I was taking this as my insight, because I used to be very afraid of death, now I see it as something completely natural and of course inevitable. And of course, if you believe that something is inevitable and no one is escaping this, then there's no point into being afraid of it and just waste your life or energy and think so much about it and be afraid of it as if it's going to matter. It doesn't matter. Well, I took a personal insight to one of my very strongly recommended books, one of Seneca's writings, How to Die, an ancient guide to the end of life. And of course, this book does not say, here are some 10 recipes that you can use to end your life. Of course not. It's just saying that some element that I really loved about this book is that basically there should be no fear about the death that we're about to live. We're about to experience. Some insights and some ideas that this book basically had to offer was that there's no point to being afraid of it, because of course it's always, well, it was always a thing. It always existed, it will always exist, and it exists now. And someone may as well think that it's stupid to consider death so much, especially when it's just one time thing, especially for the one individual. But the idea that I would really like to point out is that not only I believe now that it is a natural thing and it's also something inevitable, which has absolutely no point to being so afraid of. There's just no point to be afraid of the things that are inevitable. But it's also a kind of an approach that suggests that death is kind of a continuation of everything. For something to start, something must end. That kind of way. Not necessarily in the absolute sense, but I never thought before that you can basically see death as the basically beginning of everything, and the entire thing does not have to end and say to yourself, okay, this is my life and that's it. Then that's it. People do things with their lives and basically want to experience life itself, and as they should be, I believe. For them to say, you know what, I tried. I lived something. I felt something. But now, I don't think this should be because everything's gonna end. This can be, I can see why some people may as well think that, but I believe that if we just live the moment for the moment that it presents itself as to be, and just say, now I'm talking to you people, then I'm gonna make a shower, then I'm gonna take some breaths, then I'm gonna talk to a friend via phone, and basically explain, or maybe I should say experience, the moment for what it is, for what it used to be, without necessarily thinking that all this is gonna end at the end. It's just make things, the life, the continuation of what I'm doing, my idea of how I want to live. It makes it natural and not forced, because I don't want to be reminded constantly, okay, your life is gonna end. This message should be clear once or twice, something along those lines. If you basically learn to not be afraid of death and see it as something natural, and basically see it as the absolute continuation of everything, it does not mean that your life is hanging. You're not just existing and just waiting, okay, now I'm gonna end my life. I personally think that life, of course, is a miracle, and the existence itself is beautiful. And I used to think that everything is going to end one day. But I think now that this was the approach that I did not necessarily agree on, at least right now. Perhaps years later, but not right now. And a much more healthy way for me to see death is just that if you willingly decide to, you know what, okay, this is gonna end one day. I'm not gonna be the version of myself I am right now. I'm just gonna be some kind of other version. I'm gonna be basically dust or something like that, which does really benefit a lot. It's not a real benefit to think what you may as well be after your form you are right now. And the thing is that I don't really recommend it. It's just that the fear of death seems to be real because we just do not know how death look like. When in reality it's just that if we do not know how death look like, why are we so afraid of it? Exactly. That seems to be a bit counterintuitive, but at the same time, it's scary because it makes sense for us to be afraid of it because we do not know how it looks like. In my opinion, it's just like the version of God. If you basically know the picture or the image of God, if you know how that looks, if you see or recognize God, basically, you are less afraid of it because it has less effect on you because you're seeing it. You know exactly what it is. And so my personal insight of death is it's just no point. Everything's going to how should I say this, to make its course, and basically everything is going to continue regardless. And so if you see it that way, okay, regardless, everything's gonna end, including my present life or my current self. And with that way, I'm thinking to say, you know what, let's just not bother and basically do whatever we want to do. There's no obstacle, really. I just want to make this video to make a small reminder that, you know what, even though death may as well exist, but there's no point to be afraid of it because it's inevitable. And let's just not be afraid of the thing that is pretty much equivalent to the air that we breathe. It's so common. It's so natural. And it's just helped me appreciate life more, in a way. And the thing is that something that I really read and I really appreciate is that a wise man does nothing unwillingly. And so, in that sense, you may as well accept death for what it is, and also accept it as something that's going to happen in your life, of course. And in a way, if you see it coming, don't panic. It's natural. It will happen. It's just the fear of death coming can also be an indication that you lack life, that you basically have not lived the things that you always want to live. Basically, you had less experience that you wanted, or less experiences in the amount of quality that you are interested in. That can be food for thought. And so the thing is that there's no point to having pressure upon yourself for the inevitable to come. There's no point to avoid the inevitable. It's inevitable. So there's just a different kind approach to life when you just realize that, okay, there's no point to trying to completely avoid death. And life becomes a bit different as an experience itself when you basically say that, okay, it's not so hard, it's not so tough, it's not so crazy to say that, you know what, life is going to end. Eventually life is going to end. You just have another kind of appreciation for life, and you become a bit tougher, a bit wiser, and definitely more appreciative of life. Because really, we only have some moments, and I'm not saying this to video to just cry it all out. It's just this, that no point to be afraid of death. And basically being aware of death sometimes make you more present and more appreciative, and some others may as well make you more tense, because you have to say, okay, I have only some times, but I must live because I have limited time here. Okay. Anyone can take this video and make their own conclusions and their own arguments, but I just want to say that life is beautiful, even if it ends, and it should last however it wants to. Not forcing anything, not making it too hard on yourself, and that it's better to be aware of something ending and be more wise with it, rather than be just afraid. And, you know, if I make such decisions, I might as well put myself in danger, and a bunch of decisions that I would not, a bunch of thoughts that I would not recommend. Anyways, this is the small video for today. I hope you like it. I thought it was a good idea for me to talk about this topic. Might as well talk about it again sometime. But this is my video for today. You may as well tell me what you think in the comments. I'll be more than happy to see what you have to say. And I'm gonna see you next time. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you next time. Thank you and goodbye.